My good people, my good people. Hello, world. I'd like to welcome you guys back to the show that's hot with your boy Rob Scott. This is Rob's 2 cents, baby. What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody is doing well. Hope you guys enjoyed the holiday break. I know for some of us, we had to still go to work, but I hope you enjoyed these holiday times with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones, with everyone you seem to hold close to you. I know I did. Didn't quite get to see everybody, but glad I got to see the people I did see. Spent some quality time with the wife. Had a great time. So before I forget anything, Happy New Year, y'all. We are in 2022. Can y'all believe it? It just feels weird saying that. I mean, by this time, we would have thought we would have had flying cars or, living in the skies like the Jetsons. But, we're still going through this pandemic. The pandemic is running ravage through the sports world, let me tell you. But we're still clicking as people, man. You can't keep good people down. And it's not going to keep us down. And it wasn't going to keep me down. I'm sorry I had to take a little break. Had to get my mind refocused. Had to get a little relaxation in. I was off work. So I'm like, man, I got to be off the show. Look, let your boy recharge for a second. But I'm back and better than ever, baby. I'm ready for what the new year holds for Rob's 2 cents. And I'm ready to see what the new year holds for certain teams in both the NFL and the NBA. We got a lot to talk about. We have the NFL playoffs coming upon us right over the horizon. If we're standing at the mountaintop, we can see it. We can land ho if you're standing on the ship. We can see the NFL playoffs. Got some exciting games coming up this Sunday. People jockeying for position. The last game of the season is this Sunday, you guys. So get ready to see some grade A football. Also, we look in the NBA right now, and we have some unexpected teams on the rise right now. And you know what? One thing that bothers me about the national media, about media coverage in general, is that they seem to talk about the same teams over and over again. And God knows I love Undisputed, one of my favorite shows. But it's always the Cowboys. It's always Tom Brady. It's always LeBron James. They don't show these other teams love that needs love and attention. I mean, we look at shows like First Things First. We look at shows like First Take. Let me tell you guys something. Nobody wants to talk about my Chicago Bulls, but I'm going to talk about them. Because right now the Bulls are on an 8-game winning streak. They're number one in the Eastern Conference. And right now, they have a certain player that is on a roll. Let's look at the Bulls' record right now. They're 25-10. 8-2 in their last 8 games, as I mentioned before. 8-game winning streak. Right now, the Bulls are rocking and rolling. They're 2 games ahead of both Brooklyn and Milwaukee, who's jockeying for that second and third position. So right now, the Bulls are playing excellent basketball. It's been basketball by committee, and I am so proud of this team right now. And I have to tell you about a person in particular that I'm proud of. We got to talk about DeMar. Because DeMar has been playing some excellent basketball this season. If we look at what DeMar is averaging right now, he's averaging 26.9 points a game, 5 rebounds a game, 4.5 assists per game, doing it in all facets of the game, leading his team, leading by example. And did I mention he's missed the fourth quarter? DeMar has had many names right now. Debo, as he's been Deboing these teams for real. And then they call him Mr. Fourth Quarter. And there's a reason for that, because when the lights get the brightest, when the pressure gets the thickest, this is when DeMar shines even more. I mean, right now, Demar DeRozan is on the tear. I mean, we look at his last 5 games played. We look at the game against Atlanta in which he comes out, gives you 35, shooting 70% from the field, shooting perfect from the 3-point line. I mean, the guys doing it all also gave you 10 assists that game. Then we look at they went back to back against Atlanta. He said it wasn't an apparition. I do this. Even though he only gave you 20 points that game and shooting percentage came down to 44.4%, still doing it big on the assist side, giving you 8 assists in that game and a W, by the way. And then against Indiana, DeMar DeRozan was shine because he didn't have such a great game. He was 8 of 24, 1 of 3 from the 3-point line, but he hit it when it count at the free throw line. Those are free shots, ladies and gentlemen. 11 of 12 from the free throw line gives you 6 assists. And then DeMar DeRozan hits a walk-off three-pointer at the buzzer, giving the Bulls the W off one leg. And then, not to be outdone by that performance against Washington, DeMar goes crazy. He comes in, gives you 28 points, 10 of 22 shooting, 1 of 1 from the 3-point line, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. And wait a minute. Another walk-off three-pointer win at the buzzer against Washington with 3 seconds left on the clock. DeMar DeRozan pump fakes the ball. You can't speed the man up. Get the guy in the air and hits the 3-point shot from the corner against 2 defenders. DeMar DeRozan becoming the first NBA player, not just in Chicago Bulls history, but in NBA history, to hit back-to-back game-winning shots at the buzzer. The more I say it, the more I like it. And DeMar is showing everybody why he is the beast. Can I get a DeRozan, ladies and gentlemen? DeMar DeRozan, that boy go. And he's not to be outdone, not to be outshined. He got his running mate, his partner in crime, and Zach LaVine, who's also averaging about 26 points. I mean, this Bulls team is rocking and rolling. I expect to see DeMar and Zach in the All-Star game. The way these guys have been playing, you can't tell me another guard or forward who's playing better than them. We got your KDs in the world, you got your Giannis's in the world, but you're going to have both of those guys on the team. And honestly, with the way the Bulls are playing, we deserve 3 people because Vucevic, not to be outdone, is giving you about, 12 and 16 or something like that. Walking double-double. So the Bulls right now are playing excellent basketball. And when I say Mr. Fourth Quarter, DeMar DeRozan right now, through 30 games, has scored 241 points in the fourth quarter, shooting 53.1% overall in the fourth, and is 7 of 13 from long range. DeMar came in, and it's so funny because when the Bulls signed DeMar DeRozan, you had people like Chris Broussard. You had people on these shows that were saying this is going to be the worst signing in the NBA this season. I haven't seen that. Honestly, Russell Westbrook might have been the worst signing in the NBA this season. But the Lakers are starting to get a little momentum. But this is not about the Lakers. This is about the Bulls. And the fact that the Bulls right now are dominating in the Eastern Conference. Nobody wants to give them a chance. Even now, if you ask all the analysts, they're saying they don't see the Bulls making it to the NBA Finals. Let me tell you guys something. The Bulls are pretty much one big man away from being a real contender. They're going to be a problem as is right now in the NBA playoffs, and I expect to see this team in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm a little worried when they play teams like Milwaukee and Philly, and that's due to the fact of lack of size. Vucevic has never been known as a defender. But one thing I love about the Bulls is that they play defense by committee. They play basketball by committee. It's not a one-person team. We're talking about a team that has been ravaged with COVID. At one point in time, 10 players were out due to COVID-19. We're talking about a team that they were the first team really affected by this pandemic in the sports world because they were the first team to have to postpone due to the fact they had nobody to put on the court. Everybody had to quarantine. And as they started to come back, it was always next man up, next man up. We got to give Coach Billy Donovan a shout out. DeMar DeRozan could possibly be the most improved player It's another guy I'm going to talk about in a second who might have a case for that award. But right now, DeMar DeRozan, if you're going to mention MVP conversations, he has to be one of your topics. DeMar DeRozan has to be, besides Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, he has to be one of the top MVP candidates so far this year. As I mentioned, leading his team, scoring the points when they count in the fourth quarter, which we all call it the money time. We know when the fourth quarter gets here, regardless of what happened in the first three quarters, it's time to take the game home in the fourth. And that's what DeMar has been doing. Back-to-back game winners, y'all. The Bulls right now are serious. And I advise everyone to take heed of my Chicago team. Yeah, the Bears suck, but the Bulls are back, baby. And as I mentioned, it might be one player that can go against DeMar for that prestigious award of being the most approved player of the season. And his name has to be Ja. Just simply Ja. Because Ja Morant right now is on a tear. Has the Memphis Grizzlies right now fourth place in the Western Conference with a record of 25-14. They're currently on a 6-game winning streak. They have been lighting it up, and they have been led by my boy Ja Morant, who right now on the season averaging about 25 points a game, 7 assists a game, along with 6 rebounds. I mean, the guy is simply playing out of his mind right now. We look at his last 5 games against Phoenix, giving you 33 points, then putting 41 on the Lakers, then putting 30 against the Spurs, 36 against Brooklyn, 26 against Cleveland. And all of these games, ladies and gentlemen, has resulted in wins. Ja Morant, he would be that boy Cole if DeMar hadn't hit those 2 game winners back to back. I mean, Ja Morant is on a tear right now, especially in the last few games. His plus minus has been up. He's shooting very well from the field. I mean, his lowest field goal percentage was the most recent game he played, which was yesterday against Cleveland, and he still shot 42.9% from the field. You look at against Brooklyn, the man shoots 63.6%. Against the Spurs, 66.7. Against the Lakers, 48.1. Against Phoenix, 56% from the field. And these are not just run-of-the-mill teams that he's beating. He's beat the Lakers, who's currently 7th place in the Western Conference. Beat Phoenix, who's currently 2nd place in the Western Conference. Even though the Spurs are out of playoff contention, they're still coached by one of the greatest coaches to ever coach this game of basketball, and Coach Greg Popovich. Beating the Brooklyn Nets, who are number 2 in the East, and then beating Cleveland, who shocked the world this year. Right now, currently, I believe is 4th place. 6th place in the Eastern Conference. I mean, it's not by accident. Ja Morant is for real. And I have to shed spotlight on these players and teams that the national media coverage failed to give props to. Ja is a dog. And we saw his growth. Remember last year in the play-in tournament, last season, giving it to the Warriors, stepping up big, hitting the big buckets down the stretch. We saw Ja coming, but we didn't see Ja coming as fast. No homo. The guy is playing out of his mind right now. I'm excited to see what this Memphis Grizzlies team is going to do. He's got some help now. Got a couple of his boys back. We look at Dylan Brooks. He's back in the lineup. They're playing excellent football. I mean, basketball, you got Jaren Jackson, who just been on the tear from the three-point line. I mean, this team is going to be a problem for some people in the Western Conference, especially if Ja continues this great pace that he's playing with. Right now, they're first in rebound. They're 7th in points per game. And you have a star like Ja Morant who's ready to step up in that upper echelon of players. He should be an all-star this year. I see him being an all-star this year. And it's going to be some exciting basketball. You saw that dunk that he did against Brook. Oh my God! Did you see the way that the man jumped out of the gym? Ja Morant is a freak of nature. Got to give a shout out to the boy Ja. And right now, I know we talked about the NFL. A lot of great things going on in the NFL. As I mentioned, playoffs are coming up over the horizon in the next couple of weeks. But I have to tell you about my top five teams after week 17 in the NFL. We got to start off at number 5. We talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, yes, I know you're like, Rob, Kansas City right now tied first place in the AFC. Tennessee right now, I believe, is going to be your first place winners just because of the scheduling. But Kansas City has been playing some great football. They were on an 8-game winning streak until they went up against the Bengals. Patrick Mahomes did not have a bad game, 26 of 35, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. But they got lit up by Joe Burrow, who went 30 of 39 for 446 yards, 4 touchdowns. And they're right there. Cincinnati. It was hard to pick between Cincinnati and Kansas City, but I went with Kansas City just due to the experience and the fact that I can't doubt that Patrick Mahomes will pull through when I need him to. But right now, they've been such an up and down team. You look at the earlier part of the year, it was the defense that was winning games for Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes was not having his best year. In particular, I mean, right now, we look, he's at 35 touchdowns on the year with 13 interceptions. That's the most interceptions he's ever thrown in his career. The most interceptions he's ever thrown in his career. So I'm not saying that Patrick Mahomes is on a decline, but it's just showing you how great these NFL teams are. They will figure you out. They will begin to understand what you like to do, what you don't like to do, what's your strengths, what your weaknesses are. And then they will attack. We look at Kansas City right now, man. I go to a website called covers.com. And right now, Kansas City is at number... they all the way down here. Right now, Kansas City is at number 12 as far as defensive rankings go. If we look at the Chiefs... I'm sorry, 26. Sorry about that. They're at number 26. And it's surprising because the defense was playing so well. They are ranked 6th in takeaways with 26 takeaways during the game. But if we look at their passing yards allowed per game, they're ranked 28th. Total yards allowed per game, they're ranked 26th. And ranked 17th in rushing yards per game, allowing teams to rush at least for 113 yards. So right now, the question lies with Kansas City. How good is your defense? Are you going to be able to keep people from scoring against you? Because right now, Pat Mahomes looks like he's starting to get into a little bit of a groove, as I mentioned. The last 5 games, he's only thrown 2 interceptions, which is amazing considering the fact early in the year, he was throwing interceptions at a high rate without throwing touchdowns. But for the last 5 games, he's only thrown 2 interceptions. So Patrick Mahomes has seemed to turn his act around, and the defense seems to be going backwards. As I mentioned, final score 34-31 against the Bengals. And we do know the Bengals offensively are dangerous. Right now, if we look in the standings right now, the Cincinnati Bengals are nothing to play with. They're leading the AFC North. Actually, they clinched the AFC North. They won the division. They're 10-6 in their division. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and they don't look to be slowing down. They're going to be playing against the Browns, who we just learned that Baker Mayfield will not be playing in that game due to the surgery that he needs to get on this surgery. So that should be a W for the Bengals. But back to the Kansas City Chiefs, that defense is going to have to get it together if they want to make some real noise in the playoffs, because the AFC is not playing this year. Which brings me to my number 4 team in the NFC. We got to talk about the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Los Angeles Rams, they've been doing pretty good lately. If we look at their W's, I believe the Los Angeles Rams on a 5-game winning streak, playing some great football, 12-4, leading their division. Um, they definitely clinched a wild card spot, but they haven't clinched their division yet. The Arizona Cardinals are right there, but I do believe the Rams hold the tiebreaker against the Cardinals. So if the Cardinals lose, which is more than likely because they're going to be playing the Seahawks, and I'm pretty sure Russell Wilson is going to be looking to make a statement against the Arizona Cardinals, considering the fact he's not going to be in the playoffs, but he's going to be looking to get shopped around because Seattle is starting to regress. But if we look at the Rams are going to be going against the 49ers. I believe that's a game that they can win. I believe the Rams are going to be the winners of the NFC West when it's all said and done. And my only question with them is Matthew Stafford. You know, Matthew Stafford hasn't been bad on the year. 38 touchdowns, only 15 interceptions. Currently ranked at 103.5 through the regular season as a quarterback rating. But I just don't see Matthew Stafford making the right plays when they need to. It was a great pickup for them to get Odell Beckham Jr., who I believe he scored like 7 touchdowns so far, or 6 touchdowns since he's been with the Los Angeles Rams. Really stepping up big for this team. I just don't see Matthew Stafford. This is his time to shine, pretty much. If the Los Angeles Rams are going to win a Super Bowl, if they're going to make any noise in the playoffs, they're going to need to be led by Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is going to have to step up. We know back in the day, as I mentioned before on previous shows, the man has been in the league for about, 12 years? And out of those 12 years, you've only won 3 playoff games? That's not a recipe for success. So he's going to have to step up now. Step up when it counts. Because you had players on your roster before in Megatron. You know, you've had top-notch players, and you haven't been able to get the job done. And right now, with everything that the Rams have done, trading all their draft picks away so they can send Jared Goff to Detroit, so they can bring in a Matthew Stafford, releasing Deshaun Jackson so they can bring in an Odell Beckham Jr. Even though you lost Robert Woods, you still have enough there. You have a top-notch receiver in Cooper Kupp right now, who's probably been the best receiver in the NFL. As far as route running goes, you're not going to stop Cooper Kupp. They have gone for broke. Look at the defense. Bring in a Von Miller to an already stacked defense that already had Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Jalen Ramsey. And surprisingly, the defense ain't been all that. Because if we look at the Los Angeles Rams defensive ranking, they're middle of the pack. They're 16. Remember, there's 32 teams in the NFL, and they're ranked number 16. So when it's all said and done, the only stat that they're really good at is they stop teams from running the ball on them. Ranked number 6 as far as rushing yards allowed. But this team right now needs to step up in a big major way. That defense, I believe, is going to play big in the playoffs. It's going to be dependent on Matthew Stafford. What can you do for this organization? We go to number 3. We have to talk about Tennessee. The Tennessee Titans, ladies and gentlemen, are surprisingly in first place in the AFC. They're kind of in a tie with Kansas City. As I mentioned, they're 11-5. Tennessee is 11-5. They've clinched their division in the AFC South. No way for the Colts to catch up to them. And their last game happens to be against a 4-12 team in the Houston Texans. And not to mention, a certain running back might be coming back. Derrick Henry, as you guys remember, back in week 8, had to have surgery on his foot, had a Jones fracture, ruled him out for the season, but they didn't rule him out for the year. Which means that if Tennessee is going to make the playoffs. There was a slight chance that Mr. Derrick Henry could make a return on the football field. And it looks like he's going to be coming back. We're talking about a guy who had already rushed for 937 yards and had 10 touchdowns before he went down. Was on pace for a back-to-back 2,000-yard rushing season. Now you're bringing back that beast along with Tennessee, with Ryan Tannehill, who hasn't, let me rephrase that. He hasn't lost them the game, but he hasn't had a great season. We're talking about a guy who's thrown for 17 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Tennessee has been winning in spite of Ryan Tannehill. You know why? Because Tennessee right now is ranked 12th defensively. They have been doing their thing on the defensive side, only allowed their 6 in points scored, and they're set number 2 in rushing yards allowed. So that defense has been stepping up and not letting teams come in there and just run all over them, not score all over them. Ranked 12th right now defensively. And now you're bringing back a monster in Derrick Henry. I cannot wait to see how he's going to look when he comes back, because Tennessee can definitely use him going forward into their postseason, because it looks like they're going to be able to get a first-round bye. As I mentioned, they have to beat the Texans. All Tennessee has to do is win to clinch the AFC conference. Number 2, we have to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're my number 2, of course, led by the GOAT and Tom Brady, who right now, we know Tampa Bay is going in a little debacle right now with Antonio Brown. If you guys didn't see, this past Sunday, they were going against the New York Jets. Antonio Brown left the field with about 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Threw off his jersey, threw off his equipment, started throwing his gloves and T-shirt into the audience, to the crowd, ran on the field, and gave the crowd the peace sign, pretty much indicating that he was done with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or at least the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were done with him. Now, there were a lot of discussions, a lot of theories on what happened during that game. A lot of people were saying that he was mad that Tom Brady had started throwing the ball back to Gronkowski. I think he already had like 10 targets at that time during the game. As you know, Antonio Brown is on a veteran's minimum. So he needs all the incentive money he can to catch up on money that he's missing right now, which is completely his fault. A receiver of his type of caliber, a receiver with his skill, should not be making the veterans minimum. So you know there's a behavior problem there, in which teams are not willing to pay money to a guy they don't know is going to be there by the end of the year when it's all said and done. Now the theories are coming out, well, let me finish talking about the first theory. So they were saying that he was mad that, I think he was a couple yards away from getting the yardage incentive. He was one touchdown away from getting the touchdown incentive. And I believe he was like 5 catches away from getting the catch incentive. So they were saying theoretically that he was throwing a temper tantrum because he wanted those targets so he can get his money, which is, after it all adds up, is about $1 million in incentives. Now it's coming out that he, before he got suspended for the fake vaccination card, he was already out due to an ankle injury. So now they're saying that ankle was giving him problems, and he went to coach BA, Bruce Arians, and said, hey, I'm not going back in the game. My ankle is not feeling up to par. And Coach BA told him, hey, you're going to go back on the field, and if you want to be on this organization, you're going to have to listen to authority. And according to that, that set Antonio Brown off, in which he did everything as I described earlier, throwing away his equipment and all that, whatnot. Tom Brady, which is the guy that's vouched for him in both New England and now with Tampa Bay, said that he has empathy for Antonio Brown and hope he gets the help that he needs if it is indeed a mental health issue. I don't think Tom Brady fully understands what went on the sideline. Like many of us, all we saw was him throwing off his jersey and him walking off the field. I mean, he even confused the security guards who thought he was a fan that got up on the field. So the the funny thing about that situation is that he's not released from the team yet officially, even though Coach Bruce Arians came on at the end of the game and stated that Antonio Brown will no longer be a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He has not officially been released yet of his duties. So, as we speak today, Antonio Brown is still a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and we don't know if he's just going to get a suspension and come back for the playoffs. I know Tom Brady can use him, considering the fact that you lost Chris Godwin for the rest of the year due to a torn ACL. You got Mike Evans that came back. We don't know if Leonard Fournette is going to be coming back for the playoffs. So he's going to need all the help he can get if he wants to make one more run at the Super Bowl. They're going to be playing the Panthers this Sunday. And as I mentioned before, they currently have clinched their division, 12-4, ran away with the NFC South. It's been a long time since the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won their division. So kudos to them this season. And we're just going to have to see what's going to happen with this situation. I mean, Tom Brady's played out of his mind this year. 40 touchdowns, only 12 interceptions, thrown for 4,990 yards on the year. He is 10 yards away, ladies and gentlemen, from having a 5,000-yard season. He hasn't had a 5,000-yard season since 2011 with the Patriots. So that tells you, for a guy that's 44, that's playing in his 20th season, just how great of a quarterback that he really is. Even the defense right now are playing great, but if you go to covers.com, as I mentioned, that's what I use for my sports statistics. Tampa Bay right now is ranked currently first place in offensive output. They average about 405 yards a game. They average about 99 yards rushing and 306 yards passing. I mean, right now, this team is playing some great football. Defensively, however, is where they need to pick it up at. But even with that, they're ranked 14th defensively and have been doing that thing. Ranked third in rushing yards allowed per game, ranked fifth in takeaways per game, and ranked 11th in points scored. So Tampa Bay are doing it on both sides of the ball. They have a great veteran in Tom Brady who's going to make the right plays when they count, especially when that pressure begins to thicken, because when the NFL playoffs come around, you want a leader like Tom Brady leading your team. But I got to get to number one, who everybody already know is the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. All my Chicago Bears fans, I'm sorry, but facts is facts. Aaron Rodgers, in the words of Stephen A. Smith, that is a bad man. And Aaron Rodgers has been on the tear this year. Man, let me tell you guys something. He is the leading candidate for the NFL MVP this year. Yes, his stats are not as much as Tom Brady, but if you look at that touchdown to interception ratio, it's kind of hard to deny the greatness of this man. He's thrown 35 touchdowns on the year and only 4 interceptions. And you got to remember, he missed a full game due to the fact that he lied about his immunization status. Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. The Green Bay Packers are playing excellent football. They're 13-3. They're on a 5-game winning streak. I doubt any of the starters play for the last game of the season, but they're 8-0 at home, which means something because they are the number one team in the NFC, which means they're going to get not only a first-round bye, they're going to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And we're talking about a team that was 8-0 at home. Enough said about the Packers. Now, the only thing that scares me about the Green Bay Packers are their defensive ratings. Let me tell you guys something. The defensively, I don't know if I trust this team too much. Let's go to statistics. We look at the top five defenses. Let's go to them defensively. The Green Bay Packers are all the way down at number 11. So they're ranked 12th offensively and 11th defensively. They're like almost middle of the pack on both sides, but you got to remember they have the best receiver in football in Devontae Adams. You have one of the best quarterbacks in football in Aaron Rodgers. They have a two-headed running game with Dylan and Aaron Jones. You got the defense who's been playing good, not been giving up that many points. Defensively ranking, they're 8 in takeaways, they're 8 in points scored, they're ninth in passing yards, 13th in rushing yards, and 11th in total yards. So they're not playing bad at all. The Green Bay Packers right now has to be your favorites to win the Super Bowl title. Aaron Rodgers desperately needs that other Super Bowl for his legacy. And right now, Green Bay is playing the best football in the NFL. Which brings me to the NFL playoff picture. Because if we talk about the playoff picture right now, let's look. In the AFC right now, who's clinched so far, the Tennessee Titans, who's ranked number 1. We have the Kansas City Chiefs at number 2. The Cincinnati Bengals at number 3. The Buffalo Bills at number 4. And the New England Patriots at number 5. Coach Bill Belichick is back in the playoffs. In the hunt, we have the Colts and the Los Angeles Chargers. And on the bubble, which means they need a lot of good luck to happen for them, we have the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Ravens. If we look at the NFC, we have the Green Bay Packers at number 1, the Los Angeles Rams at number 2, Tampa Bay at number 3, the Cowboys at number 4, Arizona at number 5, and the Eagles at number 7. They've clinched their playoffs. But what we need to do is see who's going to make it between the 49ers and the Saints. That's going to be interesting when it comes down to it. Right now, if I'm looking at this, I believe the Colts and the Chargers are going to be the teams that come out on top. The Colts play the Jaguars. We know the Jaguars are horrible. And the Los Angeles Chargers play the Raiders. So it's really going to come down to them. Whoever wins between the Chargers and Raiders are going to be the team that comes up and plays in the playoffs this year for the AFC. And then as far as the NFC goes, the 49ers are going to make it to the playoffs. I don't see the Saints making it, which will give you your 7 teams. Remember, there's 7 teams from each conference that plays in the NFL playoffs. The teams that are in first place, in this case it'll be Tennessee and Green Bay, they get a first round bye. So they don't even have to play in the first round of the playoffs. And then we'll go, 2, 7, 3, 6, and 4 and 5. So can't wait to see how this NFL playoffs shape up. We have some excellent teams in the playoffs this season, and I will be bringing you all of that, especially once we get the final teams decided. We're going to have Rob's 2 cents, the prediction show, on what teams I think are going to be coming out on top in that first round of the playoffs. As we get down to the nitty-gritty of the show, a couple quick hitters before I let you guys go. Klay Thompson, ladies and gentlemen, is expected to make his return Sunday against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I believe the Sunday is the 9th. Yes, I am correct. So Klay Thompson, we're talking about a guy who averaged 21.5 points a game, is going to be coming back to the Golden State Warriors, who's already number 1 in the Western Conference, already number 1 in the NBA. Now, mind you, Klay Thompson has not played basketball in 2 years. Remember, he tore his ACL in the NBA Finals against the Toronto Raptors. He missed a year, then he was getting ready to make a return, and then tore his Achilles during practice on the year that he was supposed to come back. So he sat out of 2 full seasons. But Clay, it looks like he's primed and ready to get back on the court. I mean, Bleacher Report, I believe that was Bleacher Report. I saw that on which the guy hit 24 threes in a row during practice. We saw him in a game recently where the Warriors were playing, and he held up 6, which indicated 6 days until his return. And I can't wait. Steve Kerr has already made it abundantly clear that when Klay Thompson comes back, he will be a starter for this team. And I am excited to see the Splash Brothers reunited, and it feels so good. Also, on another note, Kyrie Irving will be making his return against the Pacers tonight. Remember, he can only play in road games due to the mandate set forth by the city of New York. So Kyrie can only play against teams that do not have a vaccine mandate in place to play in those arenas. And I know, people like myself, I'm not as optimistic as most people are. I do understand that Kyrie Irving is a 27 point per game scorer, averaging about 6 assists. Going to take a lot of pressure off Kevin Durant, a lot of pressure off James Harden, allow James Harden to be the point guard that he wants to be. But I worry about team chemistry. Can the Brooklyn Nets overcome the fact that half of your games Kyrie won't be able to play in? Which means that even in the playoffs, you're going to have to switch up how you play. Because you're going to play a completely different way when Kyrie is not on the court. And that's the thing that worries me about the Brooklyn Nets, the team chemistry. We know Brooklyn can play. They have Kevin Durant, who's arguably right now the best player in professional basketball. You have James Harden, who's been there, done that, MVP, leading scorer in the league, leading assist getter in the league. James Harden can do it all. And he's starting to look like himself again. He lost a little weight. James Harden is starting to get back in the groove on the court. Now you're bringing in this guy who, of course, completes the big three. We're not talking about a run-of-the-mill player. We're talking about an former NBA champion in Kyrie. And yes, granted, it's going to be nice to see him back on the court. You're getting a superstar status player back on the court. But again, I mentioned, how does that help or how does that affect team chemistry? Because now you have to play a certain way when he's on the court, and then you're going to have to play a certain way when he's not on the court. And then, of course, you're going to have to alternate games with him during the postseason. And if you don't have home court advantage, he's only going to play in, 3 games? Granted, your games don't go to game 7. So, those are important things to factor in when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets, especially, let's say Brooklyn makes it to the finals. Are you really banking on Kyrie being the man for 3 games? And you got to hope that you don't play a team like Golden State or LA, because you can't play in those arenas without being vaccinated. So there's a lot that comes with this. If I'm Kyrie, man, I understand. I was not a fan of the vaccination, man. But you got to do what you got to do, man. Every day we hear that this thing is there's a new variant of this thing coming out, man. So I'm not telling you what to do, but those are things that you have to consider. Will you even be able to play in the NBA Finals if you guys make it, considering on what team you play? Because you cannot play in certain arenas unless you're vaccinated. I know Chicago hasn't put a mandate on players, but there's a mandate on us as citizens. We can't even go into these arenas unless you're vaccinated. So something to think about, Kyrie. Also, shout out to LeBron James for not only his excellent play lately, and I mean, LeBron James has been on the road lately. I mean, the guy is looking to try to reach Kareem for real. I mean, just in his last 5 games alone, 32 points against Houston, 37 against Memphis, 43 against Portland, 26 against Minnesota, and then last night against Sacramento, 31. I mean, the guy has been on the road. Shout out to LeBron James for scoring 36,000 points. One of three players to ever reach this mark. Of course, the other two players being Karl Malone and Kareem, the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Right now, LeBron is currently sitting at 36,138 points. He's about what 700 and some change away from Karl Malone, who's at 36,928. So LeBron is right there on the cusp of becoming the second leading scorer in NBA history all time. So shout out to LeBron on his excellent play. And shout out to Aaron Rodgers, who just surpassed Brett Favre with his 443rd touchdown as the most touchdown passer in Green Bay franchise history. I have to give it to Aaron Rodgers. As I mentioned before, like Stephen A. Smith says, he is a bad man. Right now, I believe Aaron Rodgers is at 445 touchdowns. He threw three touchdowns that game. So shout out to Aaron Rodgers, man. Continuing to get the job done, and only took him a year less to reach this historic mark than it did for Brett Favre. So shout out to him. And on a somber note, before we leave, I have to talk about the loss that the sports world had over the Christmas holiday, and that was the loss of Coach John Madden, legendary coach, legendary sports announcer, and of course, if you heard the last name Madden, it's synonymous with football gaming, as NFL Madden has been a staple for the last 30 years. Um, There are three people in particular that I can think of right now that got me interested in talking about sports. The great Ernie Johnson, who's the leading host for Inside the NBA. I would say the great Stuart Scott, who showed me that I can be myself and still talk about the game professionally. I know you got your Stephen A's and you got your Skip Baylesses, who I have much respect for on this platform. And then I also have to be John Madden. Listening to him and the great Al Michaels or him and the great Bob Costas talk about football, speak about football, the way that Madden loved this game is just a testament to who he was, not just as a coach, but as a broadcaster for this great game. I mean, Madden introduced the teleprompter, or whatever it's, I forgot what the screen in which they write down all the plays, and he shows you how the plays are broke down. He introduced that. I remember watching that. I remember listening to him and the great Al Michaels during those NBC games in which we'll watch the Monday Night Football on ABC, or how he'll call the Sunday night games with NBC. I mean, Madden is a true loss to this game. Players, they had a Christmas special on, which is crazy that they played this special right before he died, but I'm glad that he got to see and receive his flowers and get that love from the NFL community, because everybody talked about how they wanted to be part of the All Madden team. That they felt that, hey, if Coach Madden picked me to be a part of his All Madden team, which is pretty much his version of All Stars in the league, then I made it. How he would do the Thanksgiving games and have the turducken, which is turkey, duck, and chicken all together. And the MVPs or the winners of the game and the MVPs of those games got to eat the turkey leg. Uh, you know, just making the game of football a fun game. Uh, the great Shannon Sharp said that he still has his All Madden jackets, you know, along with his Hall of Fame jacket. So, it's just a testament to who Coach John Madden was. We know he won the 1976 Super Bowl as a coach of the Oakland Raiders. And just to see the admiration that NFL players have for him, because a lot of regular casual fans probably only know Madden from the football game and not realize he was one of the most energetic and colorful play-by-play announcers that the game has ever seen, that sports has ever seen. And our thoughts and prayers are with his family. No cause of death has been given out yet for the legendary coach. But rest in peace, Coach John, man. You are a true legend. And, now you get to sit with the big man in the sky and call the football games in heaven. Rest in power, legend. And rest in peace to Betty White as well. Even though she was not a sports figure, Betty White was just one of those larger than life people. So rest in peace to her. Our thoughts and prayers are with her family as well and loved ones. We appreciate all of your contributions to the entertainment game and your constant feel-good nature. So rest in peace to two of those legends right there. And that's the end of my show, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys for starting the new year right with your boy. Remember, you can catch me on all social media platforms. Catch me on YouTube. Catch me on the Rewind Sports 60 Roku channel. And also, the Rewind Sports 60 has an app. Make sure you guys download it. Available on Google or the Google Play Store. Available for iPhone at the App Store. Appreciate you, Brother Jerry Riles. Happy New Year to you, brother. And I got some big things in store. I want to do a couple collaborations this year with a couple of people I know that's big in the sports game. And I want to give a shout out to my boys over there at Pro Fans Sports podcast, man. I saw they had Joy Taylor. I saw they had media badges at the Jason Tatum basketball camp. I mean, these guys are making moves, man. So hopefully I can get one or all three of those guys on my show, and we can definitely talk sports. And that's what I know you guys come here for, to talk sports. I got nothing but love for you guys, man. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have an excellent 2022. Remember, man, this is the year of victory. That's what I'm calling 2022. This is the year of victory. Everything you've been working hard for is going to happen this year. You just have to stay dedicated and run the course. This has been your boy, Rob Scott, with Rob's 2 cents. I hope you guys have a great one, man. Remember what I always tell you guys, man. Set achievable goals. And then you got to map out a plan on how you're going to get to those goals. And then you got to go out and execute, man. I got nothing but love for you guys. I hope you guys continue to be great. And you already know the slogan, baby. We gone! There's a bigger fight going on. There's a much bigger agenda than the streets. And I know sometimes it's hard to see that far in front of us. But we have to look past the illusions. Look past the delusions of grandeur and look at the bigger picture. We need to become better versions of ourselves each and every day. Fight for what you believe in. Because if you're staying for nothing, you'll fall for anything. We just getting started, baby. You guys know the slogan now. Hope you all have a great evening. And we gone.